G'day mate, it's me, Willie, the Tapwise Owl. Down under, we've got a cheeky little game called Two Facts and a Fib. Reckon you can spot the porky? Number 1, before hitting record, Andrew swore blind that this was a ripper idea and that my true blue Aussie accent would be a smash hit with all you crafty beer professionals on the YouTubes. Number 2, Tapwise makes it dead easy to run your beer club and bring your mates back to the bar with your very own branded brewery app. Monthly subs are a breeze, perks and rewards tick along on autopilot, and the cash lands in your bank account every night, you business legend. Number 3, in the past year, breweries have pulled in nearly 100,000 extra chatroom visits and raked in over $1 million in recurring revenue with apps of their own. Got the fib? Right, mate. Andrew reckoned this was a bugger idea, but joke's on him. I went and did it anyway. So book a demo today and let's show Andrew you're keen on packed tap rooms, steady revenue, and of course me, Willie, the Tapwise Owl. Cheers, Cobber. Now enough chin wag. Let's get on to the learny bit.
Hi all, thanks for being here today. My name's Dustin Jeffers. I'm the Vice President of Brewery Product at NextGlass. That means I mostly deal with Ollie, which is a brewery ERP system. First, I want to say that this is not a sales presentation for Ollie. Today, we're going over Will You Thrive in Chaos, going over revenue versus profit strategies for a volatile market, which I think most of you agree we're currently in the brewing industry. So while this isn't a sales pitch for Ollie, this is a sales pitch on why I think it's really important for breweries, especially nowadays, to have ERP systems and to be tracking some of the stuff we're going to go over in the presentation today. So a little bit about the company I work for first. Ollie is a part of NextGlass. So we have companies like Untapped, which also means it's Untapped for Business that you can do menus on. Beer Advocate, Hop Culture, Osner, and then Ollie. Some history about myself. I'm originally from South Jersey. I went to UConn for undergrad for speech pathology. So like probably many of you, did not go to school for brewing, even though I became a brewer. I did move down to Florida to go to FAU for my master's in speech pathology. I graduated. And while I was in my externship, I helped co-found Saltwater Brewery in Delray Beach, Florida. While I was there, I started as assistant brewer and then became the head of operations. During the pandemic, I left Saltwater Brewery to help the recently opened Sons Brewing, also in South Florida. I was their director of operations. And then about 3 years ago, I left to become a solutions consultant at NextGlass. That means I would hop on sales calls and talk to breweries about ERP system that we have, Ollie. After about a year, I became the director of our brewery implementation. And then last year, I became the VP of Brewery Product. I've used many ERP systems in the past and really passionate about breweries having systems to get the most information about their business as possible. So first, I'm going to start off with our current state of the industry. Go into some of the typical costs of goods and batch-to-batch swings that breweries will see. Go over some experiments that I've run, and then also a wrap-up of everything we're going over. So to start, current state of the industry. Right now, I'm sure everyone's feeling the pains of the uncertainty when it comes to raw material cost. There's a lot of tariff uncertainty. Sometimes we think that grain's going to get hit with a tariff and then it becomes exempt. Everyone's having issues with cans and can lids. There's also a lot of cost fluctuation in hops. Many farms are starting to plant less. And then overall raw material usage and volume loss to keep up with trends. Back 10 years ago, there was a lot less dry hopping going on. You weren't losing as much in your tanks. And then there's mostly everyone using T90. There's now a lot more different raw materials you can use, especially when it comes to hops, to help lower your volume loss throughout the process. We also, as I said before, have packaging material cost changes, the tariffs on aluminum that's currently going on. There's many mobile canning companies that they have shown some price increases and starting to really push for people to get into contracts. You also may need these contracts because more and more breweries are relying on this mobile canning as well. So that's a lot of the uncertainty going on. So if you are an older brewery, when you first created your business plan, it may look a lot different than the current environment that we're in the brewing world now. So when you go back and look at your business plan, which I think is really important that a lot of breweries don't do, it's important to look at what you set for your growth strategy for the next 2, 5, and 10 years. Was your plan to double in size? If it was, where is that beer going? Also, what did you mean by double in size? Did you want to double your barrelage, your profit, or the value of your company? All those things are not necessarily connected to each other. Especially with a lot of the law changes, it's a lot easier for breweries to open up multiple locations and then also expand beyond just beer. Many breweries are now opening distilleries as well, or going into Delta 9 and being able to have more options for their consumers. Also, it depends on what your distribution plan was. Are you in a 3-tier state and you rely on a distributor, or do you need to self-distro? If you're relying on a distributor, does your vision of growth match their vision of growth? Are you able to keep up with their demand, or are they able to keep up with your demand? This is why it's important to always revisit your business plans as you're going through every year. It's not a one-time thing. As we'll get into all of your cost of goods sold as well, it's important if you haven't started distributing to see if your core beers are scalable. Something may be doing really well in your tasting room, but do you know your highs and your lows for that beer? When I say highs and lows, I'm talking about the cost of goods. We'll go into that in the next couple slides, but it is important to check your batch to batch differences with these core beers. Again, it's really easy to make money in your tasting room. It's much harder once you get to distribution, especially once you start moving beyond just kegs. It's a lot harder to make a profit when it comes to your cans. Going into cost of goods, it's really important, in my opinion, to check your batch to batch differences in your cost of goods. Once you go into this, it's never too early to track your cost of goods. You may have started out and your main goal in your brewery is just to get going, get beers out the door, and get your processes down. It may have been hard for you to track all of your costs right from the beginning. Just want to remind everyone it's never too early. Just because you haven't done it in the past doesn't mean that you should start now. The reason that I think it's important to track your batch to batch differences is to track your highs and lows of your certain products. Your cost of goods are going to swing over time. It's just natural. It happened to me in every brewery I was in. When talking to other breweries and we pull up their cost of goods while using Ollie, it's also easy to see it happen to them. Some of these costs that I'm showing you today are an average cost of an IPA. When we look at this first chart, it's just the cost of raw material and packaging materials. So this doesn't include all of your labor, rent, and utilities. On average, most people have their half kegs of IPAs to be about $45 for cost of goods, $15 for sixtels, and $16 for a 16-ounce case. Most of these IPAs batch swing is about $18 per barrel from batch to batch. That comes out to about 58 cents per gallon, or a $9 swing for halves, $3 swings for sixtels, or a $4 swing per case. If you're looking at that math, the case price may look a little higher. The reason for that is when you are going and doing your canning line, as many of you may have experienced, a lot can happen. You're going to have more loss in your canning. It takes a little more beer to start up your canning line as well. And when something's going wrong, you're crushing cans, you're losing lids. I've been there where I cut open one of our lid sleeves and half of it has fell on the floor. So there is a lot more loss besides just the beer when it goes into canning. You also have the issue of all of your packaging materials. When you drop a keg on the floor, you pick it back up. It's no big deal. When you drop your lids, a lot of that is just waste. So that's why that price doesn't exactly equal your half and your sixtels cost. So when looking at these numbers in this swing, your cost of goods low and highs for your average IPA could be about $41 to $50 for a half, $14 to $17 for a sixtel, or $14 to $18 for a case of 16-ounce cans. These numbers are really important to remember as we get later into the slides and some of the experiments we're going to do. If we take these numbers and put it into an average distribution sale, it would be about 16 half kegs, 40 sixtels, and 100 cases. So about 3 pallets going out once a week to your distributor. If we take in the swing and unknown cost, it's about $2,256 per month, or about $27,072 a year swing for your cost of goods that you may not necessarily be tracking if you're only taking your cost of goods for a certain product once a year. If you're taking it batch to buy batch, you're going to be able to start seeing these costs. That's really important once you start pricing out your beer for distro, or when you're changing up any of your raw materials, or trying to track how much change a volatile market is actually impacting your cost of goods and eventually your profit. Getting into profit and this cost of goods change. Your cost of goods change, highs and lows per batch to batch difference, has no effect on your actual revenue. No matter if this keg cost you $41 or $50, you're still going to sell it to your distributor for $125. When you look at that and it goes into your profit, your high, meaning the most profit you may make for these half kegs, is about $84, $41 for a sixtel, or $21 for a case. If you look at the high of your cost of goods for this beer, aka the low of your profits, you may only be making $75 for a half, $38 for a sixtel, or $17 for a case. It's really important to look at your profit when it comes to your batch-to-batch differences and not just your monthly revenue that's coming in. Depending on your raw material cost and your loss in volume swings, your profit can swing from $664 an order to $31,872 a year. We have this conversation with a lot of breweries when they're talking about that they're too small to track their batch-to-batch differences. And that's something that is reserved for larger breweries. In my opinion, I think it's even more important for smaller breweries to track these differences when you look at this $31,000 a year swing that may be going on in your profit. To a very large brewery, that swing is not as important to them, especially if they are a national brewery distributing to 50 states. This $31,000 may be a advertisement budget and only a small part of it. For a smaller craft brewery, this is at least half a salary of a person. So I think it's really a lot more important for smaller craft breweries to keep track of these numbers and know where your profit's coming from and how your profit is changing over time. So I'll quickly go through this. You'll be able to get all these slides at the end, but these are some of the important things to keep track of as you're changing anything with your batches. Being able to track your loss in yields, being able to see if you change your ingredients or your processes, know how much volume, more or less, you're getting out of any of these changes. Know your average loss between fermenter and brights, your brights and packaging. Be able to see any differences when you start messing around with yeast dumps and any yeast harvesting as well. Another part to look at is regular maintenance of any of your equipment, especially if you're lucky enough to have a centrifuge. Being able to keep up with how much loss is going through the centrifuge. If you start seeing less and less efficiency with that, it may be time to do some regular maintenance on it. Equipment that's really important to track all this: flow meters, any automation that you can do, adjunct tanks, and your canning and bottling line. So now to the good stuff. We talk about all of these swings between batch and batch differences. So I did a couple experiments with ways that you can increase your efficiency and possibly get more profit or lower your cost of goods per batch. So one of these is looking at abstract hops. So abstract is a tincture that you can add and replace some of your T90 pellet hops. This was a pretty easy experiment to run because when you go on Abstract, you can go in, look at a hop like Citra, and be able to see what they suggest, how much volume you add of Abstract versus the poundage you're using of hop. So that's what I pulled for this experiment. For T90, I had it have a 20% loss between the fermenter and the bright tank. And for Abstract, I did a 15% loss. So we gained about 5% efficiency. The entire rest of the batch was exactly the same. Same amount of starting volume, same cost for all the other raw materials, just a change between our dry hop of T90 and then the dry hop of Abstract. When we go through this, for half kegs, we had a $10.50 difference between the Abstract and the T90, a $3.50 difference for sixtels, and a $2.25 difference per cases. If you remember our swing, some of these prices fall within your batch-to-batch swing. This is why it's really important to keep track of your batch-to-batch difference. You may be running this experiment and say, oh, like we're not making that much more money off of these kegs, but we're changing our process. The problem there is you may just be looking at one of your higher costing batches for that beer. So it's really important to catch and track all these batch-to-batch differences when you're doing experiments with a new material like Abstract. Another experiment I did was looking at the price increase for grains. Luckily, we seem to be exempt from most grains. Right now, the 25% increase in base grain from tariffs, the Canadian malt is exempt. But as we know, these things can change. So with this experiment, I took all of the base grain used. In this case, it was Pilsner. And one batch, we had the base grain be 25% more expensive. This batch had the same exact loss when it came to fermenter to bright, and then also the same exact loss between brights and our finished goods as well. When running this experiment with a 25% increase in base grain, the half kegs had a $5.75 difference, sixtels had a $2 difference, and case had a $1.25 difference. This is all well within your batch-to-batch difference. So if you're not keeping track of all your different batches, when this tariff hits, you may see that it hasn't really affected your profit because you're looking at profit as a whole, or maybe just per package or just per brand, and not looking at the package difference or the batch-to-batch differences as well. Another experiment I did is for cans. This is a tariff that we are seeing right now. So the prices can change with a little notice, as we know. In this experiment, we had a 25% increase in the can cost and also the lid cost. So with this one, I only did cases. We left the kegs out of it. It was the same exact beer from start to finish. And the only difference here was that 25% increase in can and lid cost. All the losses were exactly the same. With this increase, it's showing a $1.15 difference per case. So those are some of the changes that you can do to try to combat some of this volatility. Again, seeing your revenue is great, but any of those changes that you're doing for your raw materials, who you're getting your cans from, any tariffs being put in place, you're not going to see that when you're just looking at your revenue. All those changes are going to change your actual profit. And it's really important to see how your profit's changing from batch to batch, product to product, package size to package size. Another way that you can combat some of this uncertainty and pull more profit out is knowing your order efficiency and your landed material cost. This is another big thing that I changed at many of the breweries that I worked at. At first, we would be worried about how much space we had in the brewery, how much we were ordering at one time. So we may do a grain order from Country Malt and have 60 bags in total. So one of our pallets was filled with 40 bags. and the other pallet had 20 bags on it. This seems like not that big of an issue. You're saving some money. You're not spending as much money up front because you don't need 80 bags of grain. You only need 60. The problem with this is all of the landed cost that goes into the grain. So sure, your cost per pound is going to be the same with all these, but when you start taking in pallet charge, fuel surcharge, and shipping costs, your grain is going to be significantly more expensive because all of those extra additional costs are getting spread between 60 bags of grain instead of 80. So I did an experiment where we had 40 bags of grain. I took the cost, and this is the landed cost of those 40 bags, versus an order where I only had 20 bags. Regardless if it was a 40 bag order or 20 bag order, the pallet charge was the same, the fuel surcharge was the same, and the shipping charge was the same because we're still putting everything on one pallet. The rest of the beer was exactly the same. Same loss, same packaging, all of our hops, yeast, all that cost was the same. It's just some of the grain had a different cost to it. So when we look at that difference, a half keg was $2.50 difference, a sixtel was $1 difference, and a case was 50-cent difference. That may not seem like a lot, especially the 50 cents per case, but that's a very large cost that you have 100% control over. When we look at the cost savings of ordering in full pallets versus partial pallets, and we go back to that single order to our distributor of 16 halves, 40 sixtels, and 100 cases, that's about $130 an order, or savings of $6,240 a year in cost of goods. Again, this is something that you have full control over. You don't have to change any of your processes when it comes to brewing your batches, and you don't have to change any of your raw materials. It's just being really good about knowing what you need to order, making sure you order it on time, and making sure you're optimizing all of your orders when it comes to how much you're putting on a pallet. This is another way that ERPs can definitely help you. If you're planning out all of your batches, you're able to easily see what you still have in stock and then what you're going to be short on. In this experiment, I just did partial pallets versus full pallets, but you could also do this and get similar results if you start adding in rush shipping. Rush shipping adds a lot of cost to your actual landed cost for your grain and can really affect your profits. So, wrapping all this up, you can go in and revisit your cost of goods at any time. I think it's really important to start today, especially with the current environment we're sitting in. So if we look at our lows and highs again for an average IPA, your half keg could be between $41 and $50. And that's completely normal just for your average batch to batch swing. That's not looking at any changes in process or raw materials. That's just going into mash efficiency, someone not pulling or pulling too much yeast, centrifuge messing up, canning line messing up, just a normal swing that breweries will see. So that's a $9 swing for halves. Sixtels can go between $14 to $17 or a $3 swing. And the 16-ounce case can go from $14 to $18 or a $4 swing. So when we look at the half kegs and that $9 swing, the hop change is $10.50 per batch. The 25% grain change is $5.75, and the shipping is $2.50. Going back to my point, most of these, you actually won't notice any of the changes that you're seeing if you're only taking your cost of goods for your IPA once a year or once a quarter. You don't know the cheapest your IPA could be or the highest. So when you do this change up, you may not notice as big of a savings as you're actually receiving. For sixtels and that $3 swing, again, hop charge is $3.50, so really close to that. And then the grain change and shipping change is well within that swing. And lastly, when we get to our cases, all of these are well within your normal batch to batch swing of $4. The hop change is about $2.25. The grain change is about $1.25. Your can changes are $1.15, and your shipping is 50 cents. If anyone has any questions about these numbers, how I did the experiments, or anything else that breweries have been using to combat some of this change, please feel free to reach out to us. Also, if anyone has any questions about ERP systems, we're always happy to talk to you about it. My main takeaway from this session is being able to track batch to batch differences is huge. I've said it probably one too many times already during this presentation. But being able to see those is really important. And the whole reason it's important to track that is to track your profit and how your profit is changing over time. Too many breweries are going in and just looking at revenue, and it's how you can get yourself in trouble, especially when it comes to distribution. Myself, we had a brewery and we were able to get a large grocery store placement when it came to cases. For us, it was great. We saw all this revenue come in. Before that, we were very heavy on kegs. So when we're seeing all this more and more revenue come in, we're expecting our profit to increase at about the same pace. But it wasn't, because one was kegs, which is highly more profitable. And then the other was cases, which is just not as profitable to a brewery our size. So it's really important, keep track of profit. You may want to give up some higher volume to make more profit instead. Depends, again, looking at your business plan and seeing what your goals are. Do you want to double in volume? That may not necessarily mean that you're going to be doubling in profit. Thanks for having me today, and please reach out if you have any questions.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this session, we'd love to see you in real life. We host in-person workshops across the country for craft beer professionals just like you that are held in some of the most exciting beer destinations around. These immersive events are designed to help you grow and connect with others. You'll meet peers from across the country and leave with actionable strategies for success. Connection has never been more important, and you can learn more at cbpconnects.com. Cheers. See you there.